All right, now let's take you through the exclusive information that we are getting at this point. This is the investigation into the Air India crash. Malfunction has in fact been seen. Investigators are closely examining the automatic deployment of the ram air turbine, seen as a major system failure.
Now we have a big NDTV news break. This is a week after the crash of AI171 on the 12th of June. We now know that at least 3 Air India training pilots on the airline's Boeing 787 fleet, the same kind of aircraft that actually crashed, which could cause what we call a dual engine failure or a flame out, resulting in an inability of the aircraft to climb post its takeoff.
On 12th June 2025, Air India Flight 171 took off from Ahmedabad, and just 30 seconds later it crashed into a college hostel, killing 260 people. It was the first ever fatal crash of a Boeing 787 Dreamliner, and the worst aviation disaster in India in almost 30 years. With all the modern technology, clean engine records, trained pilots, and perfect weather conditions, how could a brand new flight fall from the sky within half a minute? And why are investigators pointing towards a twin engine failure? Something experts call nearly impossible. Let's start from the very beginning. The plane that crashed was a Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner, one of the most advanced and modern passenger planes in the world. It was 11 years old, delivered to Air India in 2014. This type of aircraft is used globally and is known for being fuel efficient and safe. In fact, before this crash, no Boeing 787 had ever been in a fatal accident. Now, let's focus on something super important: the engines. This plane was powered by 2 General Electric GEnx 1B67 engines. These engines are considered some of the most reliable and powerful in commercial aviation. They're built to handle long international flights and are used by many airlines around the world. But here's where it gets confusing. The right engine was brand new. It had been replaced in March 2025, just 3 months before the crash. That means it was basically fresh and in top condition. The left engine was last serviced in 2023, and its next maintenance was due in December 2025. According to records, this engine also had a clean history, no signs of problems, wear, or malfunctions. So now comes the big question. How could both engines fail at the same time? This is not normal at all. In aviation, the chance of both engines shutting down together is extremely rare, almost unheard of. That's why most planes have 2 engines for backup. Some aviation experts believe this might point to something other than mechanical failure, like maybe fuel contamination, a sensor error, or a software issue. But nothing has been confirmed yet. The day after the crash, on June 13th, rescue teams found something really important: the black box. It was sitting on the rooftop of the hostel building where the plane had crashed. Now, the black box isn't actually black. It's bright orange, so it can be spotted easily. And it's not just one device, it's made up of 2 parts. Flight data recorder, FDR. This records things like altitude, speed, engine performance. Cockpit voice recorder, CVR. This records the sounds and conversations inside the cockpit. In this case, the Dreamliner had something called Enhanced Airborne Flight Recorders, which combine both data and voice into one unit. Both recorders were found and sent to Delhi to be decoded, and what they showed was surprising. The flaps were in the right position for takeoff. The control surfaces, which include the rudder, ailerons, and elevators, were also working properly. No signs of any mistake by the pilots were found in those final seconds. So the plane was set up correctly and the pilots did what they were supposed to. Then why did it crash? Here's where things get really serious. The black box data confirmed that the ram air turbine, or RAT, had deployed. Now, what's a RAT? It's a small fan that pops out from the bottom of the plane during emergencies. It generates enough power to keep basic systems running if the main engines or electronics fail. It's only used when both engines fail or if there's complete electrical failure. Basically, it's a last resort safety tool. And if the RAT was out, it means something very big went wrong. This is the first time a Boeing Dreamliner has ever crashed after what looks like a dual engine failure. That's a big deal. These planes are built to fly even if one engine shuts off. But both? That's not supposed to happen. And out of the 242 people who were on Air India Flight 171, only one person survived. His name is Vishwas Kumar Ramesh. He was sitting in seat 11A, which was right next to an emergency exit. His survival is nothing short of a miracle. According to his statement, everything happened so fast. One moment the plane was taking off like normal, and the next it was falling. He doesn't remember much from the crash itself because it all happened in just seconds. But what he does remember is terrifying. He said that the section of the plane where he was seated broke off during the crash. It somehow landed on the ground floor of the hostel building that the aircraft hit. He was still strapped into his seat when the impact happened. The emergency exit door near him got damaged and broke open because of the crash. Somehow, that opening gave him a chance to escape. He said that he unbuckled his seatbelt, crawled toward the opening, and climbed out of the broken piece of the plane. He was injured, disoriented, and in pain, but he made it out alive. Rescue workers found him in that state and rushed him to the hospital. He had multiple injuries, including burns on his left hand and some broken bones, but thankfully the doctors said he would recover. He stayed in the hospital for 5 days. The doctors also said that he was very confused and shocked, which is completely normal after going through something so traumatic. His survival is almost unbelievable when you look at the crash site and see how badly the plane was destroyed. But this miracle has a heartbreaking side too. His brother, who was also on the flight but seated in a different row, did not survive. This man went from flying with his sibling to being the only person who lived through one of the worst plane crashes in India's history. He lost a family member, saw hundreds of people die around him, and still has to live with the memory of that day. Experts say that maybe his seat's position next to the emergency exit gave him a small chance of survival. The fact that the section he was sitting in broke away from the rest of the aircraft might have reduced the impact just enough to keep him alive. But honestly, there's no clear explanation. He was just incredibly lucky. And the crash didn't just take lives in the sky, it caused a huge disaster on the ground too, especially for the people at BJ Medical College. The plane crashed right into the hostel and doctors' quarters of the college. It was lunchtime and many students were inside, resting or studying. Within seconds, everything turned into chaos. Over 50 students were injured, and 10 to 12 students were reportedly trapped in the fire that broke out after the crash. Students who were lucky to survive ran out of the building screaming, confused, and scared. Many of them had burns, cuts, and broken bones. Some were thrown off their beds because of the force of the explosion. One of the saddest parts of the crash was that 19 people on the ground also died, and this included Vijay Rupani, the former chief minister of Gujarat. He was staying in the building during a visit and got caught in the crash. The rescue efforts began immediately. The Ahmedabad Fire and Emergency Services sent teams within minutes. They didn't waste time. They issued a full brigade call, which means calling in all available fire stations. More than 300 firefighters showed up, along with over 150 municipal vehicles. These included fire trucks, ambulances, excavators, and even water tankers. They worked non-stop to put out the flames, pull people from the rubble, and clear debris. It wasn't just the fire department. Teams from the Indian Army, Border Security Force, NDRF, National Disaster Response Force, ONGC, and even Civil Defense came to help. It became a full-scale emergency operation. Roads were blocked so ambulances could move faster. Nearby hospitals were put on alert, and extra doctors and nurses were called in. Even military hospitals were kept ready in case they were needed. The rescue workers had to fight heavy smoke, flames, and falling pieces of the building. It was a very risky situation, but they kept going. Some students were pulled out alive, covered in ash and dust. Others weren't as lucky. The Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation also played a big role. They sent in more than 150 trucks and earth movers to help clear the site. Engineers, doctors, and health staff were sent to check for any gas leaks, structural damage, or other risks. Everyone who saw the crash site said it looked like a war zone. The hostel building was almost completely destroyed. Now here's the twist. GE Aerospace, the company that built the engines, said that both engines had a clean history. No faults, no major issues. The right engine had been replaced just 3 months before the crash, and the left engine had recently passed all inspections. There was nothing unusual in the maintenance records. So what's going on? To dig deeper, Air India pilots recreated the takeoff in a flight simulator. They tested different conditions like taking off with flaps retracted or with landing gear down. But even then, the simulator didn't crash. The plane still kept flying. That means something else must have gone wrong on the actual flight. Something that hasn't been recreated yet. There are a few theories. One is fuel contamination. Maybe the fuel was mixed with water or dirt, which can shut down both engines. Another theory is a software malfunction in the electronic engine control systems. Some experts even think it could have been a sensor error that sent the wrong signals to the engines or shut them down by mistake. The investigators are also checking the engine actuators, oil systems, and fuel pressure systems. Basically, they're looking at every tiny part that controls the engines, trying to see if there was a hidden failure that nobody noticed. Even though the crash happened in June, investigators say it might take months or even years to know the full truth. India's aviation minister promised an initial report within 3 months. But as of now, there are more questions than answers. This crash shocked everyone because the Dreamliner is supposed to be one of the safest planes in the world. And when a plane this modern crashes like this with no warning signs, it makes everyone, from airlines to passengers, very nervous. The CEO of Air India, Campbell Wilson, gave a public statement the day after the crash. He said the airline was deeply sorry and that their thoughts were with the families of the victims. But instead of comforting people, his speech actually caused more drama. Why? Because people online noticed that his speech was almost word for word the same as a speech made by an American airline CEO after a different crash. This made it feel like he wasn't being genuine, and many criticized him for using copied words during such a sensitive moment. Meanwhile, Tata Group, which owns Air India, stepped in quickly and tried to make things right. They announced a compensation of 1 crore rupees, around $120,000, for the families of each passenger who died in the crash. They also promised to pay for the medical bills of all the people who got injured, both on the plane and on the ground. Not only that, Tata also said they would help rebuild the destroyed hostel building of BJ Medical College where the plane crashed. This showed that they understood how serious the damage was, and that it wasn't just about the people on the flight. Many lives were affected on the ground too. Later, the Tata Group made another big move. They extended the same 1 crore rupee compensation to the families of people who died on the ground. This was after many groups, like the Indian Medical Association, requested that the students and residents affected by the crash should also be supported. People appreciated this step, and it showed that Tata was trying to take full responsibility. But not everything was handled properly. Just a few hours after the crash, 4 officers from Air India SITS, the ground handling team, were caught partying. Yes, partying on the same day so many people had died. This made the airline look really bad, and they were suspended immediately. It showed a lack of basic human decency, and it made people question the culture within the organization. And also for Boeing, this is a huge deal. The 787 Dreamliner is one of their most advanced and popular planes. It's used by airlines all over the world for long international flights. It's known for being fuel efficient, quiet, and safe. So, when one of these planes crashes in such a tragic and sudden way, people start to worry. Is the Dreamliner really as safe as we thought? As news of the crash spread, Boeing's stock price dropped by 9% almost immediately. That's a massive hit in the stock market world. Investors started panicking, and people began questioning the reliability of Boeing's aircraft again. Something the company has struggled with in the past, especially after the 737 MAX crisis. In response to the crash, Boeing's CEO, Kelly Ortberg, made a quick and serious decision. He canceled his visit to the Paris Air Show, one of the biggest aviation events in the world. He said that right now his focus is fully on the investigation and supporting the victims' families. Boeing also announced that they would send a special team of experts to India to assist with the investigation. These experts are trained to look into everything: how the plane was built, how the engines performed, and whether there were any system failures that could have caused the crash. It wasn't just Boeing that took action. GE Aerospace, the company that made the engines for the Dreamliner, also sent their team to India. Their job is to go through the cockpit and engine data and find out if there was a mechanical issue, software glitch, or anything unusual that could explain what happened. The pressure on Boeing is intense. After the 737 MAX disasters a few years ago, the company has been trying hard to rebuild trust with airlines and passengers. But now, with this being the first Dreamliner crash, everyone is watching closely to see how Boeing handles it. People want answers, and they want them fast. Some experts are wondering if a sensor or software glitch gave wrong instructions to the engines, or even shut them down by mistake. That's scary because it would mean the crash wasn't caused by something we could see or fix easily, but by something hiding in the computer systems. There's also the chance that it was a combination of small things. None of them dangerous on their own, but when they all happened together, they caused a disaster. Or maybe it was something completely new that neither the airline nor the aircraft manufacturer has seen before. Right now, the investigation is being handled by India's Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, AAIB. They've promised to give a report in 3 months, but many experts believe it could take much longer. These kinds of investigations are super detailed. They go through every wire, every bolt, every piece of data from the flight, and that takes a lot of time. They also need to wait for full test results from Boeing and GE, and maybe even run more simulations. Until then, we're left with more questions than answers. If the pilots did everything right and the engines had no known problems, what went so wrong in just 30 seconds after takeoff? Why did one of the safest planes ever built crash in broad daylight with clear weather and no obvious warning signs? So, what do you think caused this disaster? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like the video. Subscribe to the channel for more detailed investigations.